Hello. I did a video last week talking about the fact that I've done 1 year of YouTubing now and what I'd like to do during this coming year. And one of the things that I mentioned is that instead of having lots of art haul videos, I'm going to go over my art hauls from the previous year and see which items I've used and really enjoyed and which items I've not used so much. Last year was my first kind of serious year of getting back into art, and so I had an amazing time finding out about new products, buying lots of them, and just really enjoying trying out everything. But I did accumulate a lot of art materials, and I don't want to carry on in that way. I feel like I've got plenty now, and I really want to focus on what I've got. And I thought for my sake it's going to be really interesting to see what I have used, and it might also be useful for you as well, just to get a genuine 1 year on review. So I managed to find this photo of an art haul that I did probably almost exactly a year ago. It was the first one that I did on YouTube, and I'll link to it below just in case you're interested. So I've just gone through my cupboard and I've got out everything that I bought in that art haul, and I'm going to take a look at how I've been using them over the last year. So one of the things I got was this Holbein pastel set of 12 watercolours. And this is the same set. So initially I squeezed some from each of them out into half pans, and they've ended up in this palette. And this palette has kind of become my set of more opaque colours, so ones that have got quite a few mixtures in or are mixed with white pigment. And I don't use it loads because the type of paintings that I've been doing this year are more landscapey, and I've enjoyed the transparent quality of watercolours a lot. So I haven't really done anything kind of illustrative-y where more opaque and pastel colours might be used. That's not to say that I don't really like these paints. One colour that I have used a lot from the set though is leaf green, and that is actually a transparent one in the set. So I've nearly finished that one. And that one, sorry, my travel palette's a terrible mess at the moment, but that's the leaf green there, and I've refilled that a few times now. And when I ran out of Daniel Smith Verditer, I've started using the Holbein Verditer. And I don't like it quite as much as the Daniel Smith Verditer, but it's still pretty good. So I'll definitely end up working my way through that one. So definitely do like the paints, just haven't needed opaque pastels an awful lot this past year. And then another thing I bought in my previous art haul, I got a lot of Roman Szmul paints. And this was the first time a year ago that I'd tried them out. And I bought 35 of them, and I've since added another 9. I never mix these in with a different palette. They've always just been on their own together. And if you've seen any of my other videos, I've used my Roman Szmul palette when I'm at home quite a lot, and I have really enjoyed these paints. Because I've focused on landscapes a lot in the last year, there's some colours that I've used a lot more than others, and I thought it might just be nice to show you some of my favourites. I mean, if I show you the tin up close, this is just a Derwent, an empty Derwent pencil tin that I've stuck them in now. You can see that obviously some of them used more than others. So this is my Cardi Fat book that I've done quite a few paintings just using the Roman Szmul paints in. I think almost all of these have been done with Roman Szmuls. I haven't really had any reservations at all about these Roman Szmul paints, but here are some of my favourites of them. This is the Nicolazo yellow. Ultramarine pink. And even though I'm not really a big purple fan, I absolutely love the manganese violet. And then a couple of colours that I've been using quite a bit recently, I think because they've been good for like wintry skies. That's Shadow Violet. And that's Misty Morning. And I've been using those two together just for kind of stormy grey skies. I think the lavender's quite nice. And then this blue I've used in skies quite a bit. This is the Cobalt Cerulean Blue. And then we get onto greens, and I have to say these have probably been my most used paints all year. This is Perylene Green. Perylene Green Deep, a little bit warmer. Aquarius Green, which is one of my all-time favourite paints, full stop. And then this one isn't really like other Hooker's greens, but this is Roman Schmalz Hooker's Green. Olive Green Light, I've enjoyed for kind of more highlight greens. And then as the lightest green, I've got Deep Green Gold. I don't have a lot of ochres, but I do like this transparent gold ochre. And then Goethite is wonderful in landscapes, I think. And then a couple more paints. I'll just squidge them in the bottom here. I think this is actually my favourite dark brown. And this is the Van Dyke Brown. And then this is Aquarius Black, which is PBK11. And it was my first coming across PBK11 and how amazingly it granulates, and I've just absolutely loved it. So mainly landscape colours, but I just absolutely love all of these and heartily recommend them, and I'm really glad I came across them. This isn't to say that their other colours aren't good, just that I haven't used them much because of my subject material. Next up in the art haul, I had a load of Winsor & Newton half pans, and it was the first time I'd used any Winsor & Newton paints before. And not that long after I bought the paints, I kind of got into travel palettes. So a lot of the Winsor & Newtons found their way into different travel palettes. So in a way, their use has kind of been dependent on how much I liked the travel palette. So in this one, I've got the Winsor & Newton Orange Red, Rose Doré, Cobalt Violet, Cerulean Blue Red shade. I think that's that in that one. But I've not actually used this palette a lot. So while I haven't had any complaints about those paints, I've just not taken them out and about with me very much. Though you can see they have been used a bit. And the same applies for my portable painter. So in here I've got the Winsor & Newton Opera Rose, Cobalt Blue, Cobalt Turquoise Light, Phthalo Turquoise. I think that's all the Winsor & Newton ones. And they've been used a bit, but not hugely. And that's mainly because I've ended up taking this palette with me quite a bit more often. But again, no complaints with the actual paints themselves. Now in my portable painter micro, I had a couple of, well, I started off with 3 Winsor & Newtons. Had the Winsor Lemon, Winsor & Newton Burnt Sienna and Winsor & Newton Permanent Rose. And I've really enjoyed using this portable painter. I've not taken it out loads with me, but the times that I've used it I have really liked it. And I've been entirely happy with the Burnt Sienna and the Permanent Rose. But I did end up replacing, this is Winsor Lemon, and you can see I've used it quite a lot, but I ended up replacing it with Jackson's Lemon Yellow. My favourite all-time lemon yellow for mixing is Sennelier's, but that's a little bit runny for travel palettes. So I was trying out the Winsor Lemon and I didn't like it as much as Snellier's Lemon Yellow. But then I came across Jackson's Lemon Yellow and it was much, much closer to the Snellier Lemon Yellow. It just seems to mix in a cleaner way. So I've swapped that out and started using the Jackson's in there. And this tends to be the little sketchbook that I take out with me with my portable painter micro. So these are done with the Burnt Sienna and Permanent Rose from Winsor & Newton. And this was definitely a watercolour heavy art tour, and these were some individual tubes that I bought. There's the Lucas Cobalt Turquoise, and I have got this in a couple of travel palettes, but I haven't used it very much at all really. When it comes to refilling my Cobalt Turquoise in my travel palette, I've tended to go for Turquoise Green by Snellier. And the Winsor Newton Cobalt Turquoise Light, plus the Cobalt Teal and the Cobalt Sea Blue from Roman Schmall. I think I prefer all of those to the Lucas one. It just feels more dense and a little bit more chalky. I mean, it's still a very nice paint, it's just that I've got even nicer ones. And then this Anthraquinone Blue by M. Graham. This is the only M. Graham paint that I've got, and it's not actually in any of my travel palettes. I mean, it's lovely to paint with and it's a lovely colour in its own right, but for some reason I just tend not to paint with dark blues at all, so it just hasn't been used very much. And I think the same for this Holbein Davies Grey. In itself, it's a really nice paint and a really nice colour, but it hasn't made it into a travel palette and I just have barely used it. Again, this Quinacridone Coral, I've just not used it very much. I think if I got onto florals and things, then I probably would, because as far as reds go, it is a really nice one, but it's just not been my priority to paint things that use much red paint. Now the Quinacridone Burnt Scarlet I absolutely love, and I've used that one quite a bit. I've got that in a couple of travel palettes, and it's really nice for adding some of the foliage colours in the countryside around here at certain times of year. Yeah, I absolutely love it. It's really transparent and just got a really interesting warmth about it. And then Sodalite Genuine, I haven't used an awful lot of it. Well, I've refilled it a couple of times, I think. I've got it in this little palette here, and I know that that's been refilled, and I really, really love it. I don't have occasion to use it loads, but I absolutely recommend it if you need a dark granulating blue. Then I also picked up this Schmincke Aqua Bronze in the rich pale gold colour, and it's a powder that you mix with water to make kind of gold paste. And I used it a little bit at the beginning, and my main issue with it is that it comes off quite easily. It brushes off the paper quite easily, although it does make a really, really nice rich gold colour. Actually, I'll just show you. So if I tilt it, you can see it's a really good gold, very rich and bright. But I think I bought it more on a whim than for actually needing it for anything very much. One thing I did do actually though was I used it on my Christmas cards this year. I did a video on that, and I can just show you the Sodalite while I'm at it. So I did watercolour washes and masked off like Christmassy shapes, and I just sprinkled a little bit of the gold into the watercolour, and it added quite a nice sparkly Christmas element. Actually, while I've got this out, I'll just show you my quinacridone burnt scarlet as well. This Daniel Smith one that I was talking about and really like. Then another thing I bought in the same art haul was some Holbein Artists coloured pencils. At the time I was really attracted to the pastel range from Holbein, but it's so expensive I decided to pick out a few colours that I didn't have duplicates of in other ranges. So here I've got a few of the blues and kind of pastel-y greens, and I really do enjoy using these pencils. I think they're beautiful consistency. I haven't used them a huge amount just because my pictures haven't called for that many pastel coloured pencils, but I mix them in with my Luminance pencil case. There's another one there, another few on that page. So no regrets on those at all, and I do actively enjoy when I need one of these colours. And then I think the last thing I showed in the art haul was this palette. So the palette part just sits in the top of this water pot, which you can see is very well used, and I think I use this pretty much exclusively as my desktop water bucket until I came across this even bigger one, which is even harder to knock over. But I really like the design of it, had no complaints at all with that. And this was just a generic one from Amazon. I'll link to all of the products in the description box down below. And then in the top palette part, it comes with a rubber insert. These are my Winsor & Newton Designers Gouache paints, some of them. And I haven't done a ton of gouache painting this year, but again, I had no complaints with using this palette at all. These were the only gouache paints that I took with me to France for several weeks in the summer, and I was happy to use them. So yes, no regrets about that one either, and though I don't use it a lot, that's just because I don't use gouache a lot. So hopefully that was interesting. Please let me know in the comments if you think that it's worth me doing this with other art hauls throughout the year. So looking at them 1 year on and how much I've used the different materials that I bought. Thank you for watching. Bye!